he won't give you a price cap on commercial power supplies, won't remove domestic cap. How many companies do you expect to go bust this winter?
That is a really difficult question to answer. I know it sounds like obfuscation when I say this, but honestly, we don't know. What we do know is we are expecting other companies to fail on the retail side. And of course, that does eventually mean costs for customers. I think the Secretary of State is right that the priority right now is to make sure people have a continued supply through the winter. But on the other side of this, I think we do have to ask ourselves some questions about why our retail sector is so fragile.
When you say fragile, how would you assess that fragility in terms of the winter coming? Do you think we are going to run out of gas or have to ration?
In terms of security of supply, we also agree that we're lucky in the UK. We've got a diverse range of energy sources in the UK on the electricity generation side. Renewables, nuclear, storage, interconnection, and gas. And as the Secretary of State says, not all of our gas comes from Russia. We've got North Sea oil and gas too. So in terms of the system, even though the margin is tighter than in previous years, the system operator is telling us that they think that system security is fine. The issue is, of course, the cost and then what that does to the businesses who are having to buy gas at that price. So businesses that are particularly exposed, like energy intensive users and some of our generators, and then our retailers, because of the way that they hedge the market. That's the consequence here.
Well, one of the consequences, to return to my first question, is that some are going to go out of business, aren't they?
We are expecting more retailers to go out of business, yes, this winter. So we had around 50 suppliers when this started, and we're expecting to see more leave the market. As the Secretary of State says, we have had a process of consolidation. We have had retailers leaving the market in previous years. The issue is how many are failing at once, and whether or not our mechanisms which are in place to look after customers when that happens are up for that many failures in one go. And of course, then what that means for retail on the other side of this in the spring or when prices return to normal.
Well, we know that there's the system, the supply of last resort and all of that. And let's say that will protect the domestic customer. What is going to be the situation for the commercial and industrial user? Are we going to see rationing of power supplies to industries like chemicals or paper production, manufacturing, or indeed medicine and so on? Is that a possibility this winter?
I think if we're learning anything through this, crisis on gas prices, it's how important energy is to the functioning of the rest of the economy. Look, I don't actually know what the consequences for commercial users will be, though they are more exposed to the prices. They have to buy energy at the price we're seeing on the market, and the same for some of our generators. What I will tell you is our members are increasingly worried about those customers, and on top of that, I think it's less clear what will happen to business customers. And the last thing to say on this is, of course, when we say commercial customers, there's actually quite a big range. That's everything from your local corner shop through to, as you say, the manufacturers of steel. So I think it's right that the Secretary of State is talking to the energy intensive users, but we would also like to see a bit of a focus on commercial customers as a whole and thinking imaginatively about each kind of commercial customer and what sort of support they might need. But yes, of course, we're worried.
What are the options for support for, let us say, retail or hospitality? Is it just more money? Or is it the commercial price cap?
Yeah, there's a range of things we can do. As you said, I heard the talk of a commercial price cap. I think we're only just, so as this crisis has rolled through, we've had different concerns at different points. And so, originally we were worried about security of supply. That looks like it's all right for the system. We're obviously started to worry and continue to be worried about our retail and our domestic customers and vulnerable people and how we support them. Now I'm starting to hear concern about commercial customers in particular and the energy intensive users. So this is a debate that started over the last few days. There's a range of options on the table. I don't think it would be appropriate to comment on which one at this stage, but suffice to say, there may need to be an intervention. There have been interventions in other markets.
What sort of intervention? What does an intervention look like here?
There've been all kinds of things. So different markets have done it differently. They've looked after their retailers. They've done extra support for their energy intensive users or commercial customers or generators. So there's a whole range of things depending on the structure of your energy market. Now, for us in the energy industry, the thing that we're still very, very worried about is domestic retail. I think that's where we'll see more failures in the coming weeks, and then what we do about the costs of that for individual consumers, for you and me, and paying our bills, and for vulnerable people. Then there's a separate conversation to be had about energy intensive users and other businesses that are exposed in particular to the high prices. It's not my job to solve that problem for government. We're a regulated market. If we need additional support, the regulator and the government will have to step in. But we are happy to be in those conversations, and we definitely need to keep talking because this is not over yet.
Okay, I just want to clarify. The Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, said in an interview with Conservative Home that the economy is in a transitional stage. The words "tough it out" were put to him by that interview. It wasn't his phrase. But I do think that there is a sense somewhere here that actually the government doesn't have a very specific thing they want to put forward, but they hope that in a way it will be okay. Are you satisfied that you're getting enough, if you like, direct action or activity from the government?
We'll say that this government, and particularly the Secretary of State, has been very good at engaging with industry and trying to understand the issues. What's not clear is, when and if they need to act, whether they can do that. In terms of the market, look, the private sector does some, real good in this country. We've invested billions of pounds in transforming the energy system. We're building the offshore wind fleet in partnership with government. We don't need necessarily the government to run these markets. However, it's a regulated industry. It's a public utility. We provide an essential service to the economy, as well as doing things like delivering on the government's net zero commitment. So there's no way that we can do this entirely on our own. That said, the wait and see approach and targeting the intervention correctly and doing the right thing at the right time is not wrong. We just need to know that if there is a need to act, that we'll be able to do that rapidly. And that's the piece to focus on, is the government preparing for a plan B or a plan C if the wait and see approach doesn't work out.
All right, just very quickly, if I may ask, you're not going to get a commercial price cap. Would you want the price cap level, which is about £12.77 per therm now, to rise? And if so, how far?
Really challenging environment for industry. So the retailers as a whole have been making a negative margin for the last couple of years. And that's not just down to the price cap, that's a function of the retail market as a whole. The Secretary of State and the energy regulator have committed to looking at that on the other side of this crisis, and we would really welcome that. We think we have to learn some lessons of what we're experiencing right now for retail. That said, everyone in the industry recognises that at the moment the price cap is protecting consumers from these really high prices. So, we're not asking for it to be removed. If the price cap stays, in the long run, we are going to have to look at the methodology, though, because one of the things about the price cap is it doesn't move in line with these rapidly changing prices. So the industry is currently in a situation where it's setting prices based on prices from months ago. It's not really live enough to reflect current market conditions. So the price cap for now, we're saying, should stay to protect consumers. In the long run, it's very clear we need to look at our retail market from top to bottom. And if the price cap stays, we need to look at the methodology for sure.